So here's some opening words from Thich Nhat Hanh. And it's a clue to where this sermon will go. It's not where it's going to start, but where it's going to go. Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile. And sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. So some of you may know that Thich Nhat Hanh has a wonderful practice of smiling when we sit and when we pray and when we practice, to just put a little smile on our face and how it can lift the whole spirit. I wanted to thank Rose for the invitation, thank the community for hosting me, and a thank you so much to the Threshold Singers and my very good friend Danica, for I asked her to come, and she brought 8 of her closest friends to sing so beautifully and to carry the message that I hope we bring forth today, that the songs are perfect, and listening to music and letting ourselves be washed over with the prayer of song is a great way to create peace. I also want to acknowledge that as the leader of the Zen group, I am leaving Bozeman after 22 years of being here. So my group is much like this group in that we're in transition and looking for leadership. And what I have found is that we say the community is the teacher, that leaders emerge from the congregation. So even though you may look for someone to hold the post of minister, to remember that your leadership and your actions will create the community that is so wonderful and maintain it. So good luck with all that. So I'm going to read what I wrote that this talk was about, and then we'll see if the talk matches it, okay? The theme of the talk, cultivating peace and wisdom in times of distress. So whether our focus is on personal circumstances, our community's discord, or our national and global emergencies and disasters, we likely feel called to embody qualities that can heal ourselves and the world. So how do we live so that we may bring more compassion and insight into our relationships and our activities? Do our intentions and our endeavors really matter in a world that's on fire? So I maintain that it is true that one person's efforts can make a difference. So we are going to explore ways to be upright in our lives and in the world so that we never give up on peace. One person's life can make all the difference, as you know. I'm going to be quoting Thich Nhat Hanh. If it weren't for him, there may not be half as many Buddhists as there are in this country right now. He has inspired so many people. So, starting from the truth of that life is stressful, I would like to name some of the sources of our distress and to ask us where this stress actually comes from, and to acknowledge that we have difficult lives. Even if we have comfort and relationship and support, we have difficult lives. We have personal circumstances that we are attending to: money, our health. You know, for me, it's harder to get up in the morning. It's also harder to go to sleep at night, so maybe they're related, but like health issues start happening, relationship issues, all manner of things in your world, in your personal world, that take up a lot of your attention. And then there's the community issues. Bozeman is going through such a long and energetic growth spurt, and it matters how we do that. And many of you I know are involved in helping that be a sane growth. I know someone in Berkeley who wrote to me and said, I'm going to be making calls to get out the vote in Montana. What should I know? Because someone in Berkeley may not understand some of the things we're going through here. Our community cares about all the heat we've been having, the climate issues that they're global, but they're local too. And the many different approaches we have to how should this community grow, where should the buildings be, what should the buildings be. It's stressful to drive by the co-op and barely be able to squeeze on Babcock, right? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying it's hard to squeeze. Then we have the national issues, which I'm not going to go into, I'm just going to say that, you know, there's issues of, we still have poor people in this country. We still have hungry people in this country. We have populations that are disenfranchised. I know you think about them. You care about them because you hear about them. And you can relate because you know you're probably this far away from maybe being in some circumstance that is way worse than where you are. But I think the thing that bothers me the most in our national situation is the loss of civility and statespersonship. The just the sort of basic, this is aging, where actual nouns go away. They just go. Respect, I don't know, you know, civility, kindness, just talking about what you care about rather than tearing other people down. So many people are doing it, and we don't have to do it. And then globally, the grief of war and every day feeling that there are so many people going through such things we can't imagine and losing their loved ones and their livelihood. So with all this access to information, we're inundated with the news, and the grief and the helplessness that comes up is real. And we need to be very mindful of it. And I would like to point out, I think these states are addictive. You know, we like movies that are about, you know, hard things. We don't, Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a book, and it's based on the sutras of the Buddha, and it's lovely. But it kind of is like every chapter is like, and then they mindfully peeled oranges, and then they sat and they were happy. And it was like, yeah, give me something, you know? I want something interesting. I want something juicy. I want to see our dark side. So that's all of us. And it's addictive. It's why we watch TV shows that are about, you know, conflict and betrayal and espionage and all of that. It's interesting, and you know, our mind goes to trouble and it sticks like Velcro. And kindness and ease and peace is more like Teflon. We have it and it just falls away. This is my acting out of the talk. So we have values such as diversity, justice, community, and they become political, but they don't have to be. They're just our values. We care about being a community, about being kind to one another. But because things have become fraught politically, we either dig in and speak our righteousness because we know what's right, or we get too afraid to open our mouths because we don't know who we're talking to and how they're going to take what we're saying. So, even before that, how do we metabolize all this grief? How do we hold all this information? And then how do we respond? What do we do? So here's another quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. We do so much, we run quickly, the situation is difficult. And many people say, don't just sit there, do something. But doing more things may make the situation worse. So you should say, don't just do something. Sit there. Sit there. Stop. Be yourself first. And begin from there. So be yourself is actually a very difficult practice. To let some of the layers fall away. To feel what you actually feel. To think what you actually think. And to not be too rigid about it. So in Buddhism, we have lots of numbers and we have lots of things that come in threes. So I have two sets of threes for you today. The first is our responses. Our responses to our stress, our lives, the world, are in three: what we think, what we say, and what we do. What we think includes how we feel. It's like that internal monologue that's going on all the time. Do we notice how we talk to ourselves? And do we think about what we think we know? So I notice a lot of my thinking these days is about aging. I'm right at that cusp where it's like, they say the two main places you feel aging, what was it? It was like at 45 and 60 on. So it's like aging is every day. And how much time my mind just ruminates about how difficult it is now, or how different it is, or how things change, and can I stop it? Can I change it? And now I know why people think about facelifts and things like that. Like, this is my mind going on and on. The mind just does that. How do I respond to the mind doing that? And then our conversations. This, to me, is very important. It's so easy to just bring up our stress and the distress of the world and just start adding fuel to the fire. Just, bashing this person, elevating that thing, and sort of getting into just a cauldron of emotional reactivity. And how do we talk to each other? What I'm proposing is we can talk a little bit more like that Thich Nhat Hanh book that's kind of sweet and boring. Just give each other some peace, give each other some grace, The stuff is already going on. Our naming it over and over again is just naming it over and over again. And what we put attention to grows. So if we put more and more attention on that, it will grow within us and between us. It doesn't mean we don't do something. So are we being skillful in what we ingest? So when I talk about ingesting things, this is the deed, this is the action. So we are responsible for our mental and emotional and spiritual diet. We're responsible for what we take in. We don't want to turn away from the world. We don't want to turn away from our own suffering. We want to be mindful, right, how much we indulge in it. So there's this great story. I forget all the details of it, of course, but it's a teacher talking to his congregation, and he asks a question, or she asks a question: what's the most important thing? What is the most important thing? So take a minute, take a breath, and think about what's the most important thing. This is a great Zen question. We always ask this. One of our teachers, no matter what talk he gave, it was the most important thing. So everything was the most important thing. So what do you think the most important thing is, right? Compassion, kindness, wisdom. The congregation started shouting out words to her. Honesty, being upright. They just started naming things. And one person yelled out, lunch. And the teacher said, that is the closest to the most important thing. And why would that be? Because our activity is constantly in consumption. We're consuming all the time. We're eating, we're tasting, we're listening, we're seeing, we're thinking. We're just constantly receiving impressions all day long, 24 hours. That's the most important thing. Buddha had a teaching called guard the sense doors. And that's why in monasteries and places of dedicated religious life, it's very simple. The food is simple, the environment is simple. You don't hear a lot of talk. There's often a lot of silence. It's to help us see what's really going on in our hearts. And if we're constantly consuming the news, the snacks, the people, the thing, we don't really get to know who we are. And so we can't do that, be yourself, be genuine, because we don't know who we are because we're just consuming machines. So the possibility of not consuming so much and sitting with the discomfort of not knowing. So now that was your first set of 3, right? It was, this is a memory goes so fast. Thought, word, and deed, right? We know this one. What we think, how we manage our thinking and feeling mind, how we converse, and what we do, our practice of taking care of ourselves. So another great Zen teacher who is also gone his name was Tetsugen Bernie Glassman, and he was kind of a radical. He was a wild guy, and he founded many things in his lineage. One thing he founded was the Zen Peacemaker Order. So he was quite an activist for peace. And the Zen Peacemaker Order, you can look them up online. They have a beautiful website, and they follow 3 main tenets: not knowing, bearing witness, and taking action. Not knowing, bearing witness, taking action. So not knowing is letting go of our fixed ideas about myself, about you, about the world. Not favoring viewpoints does not mean we don't care. It doesn't mean we don't take a stand. It means we don't grip. Because when we grip, we get tense and we stop being able to be open to other information. You know, I do favor certain viewpoints and I eschew other viewpoints. That's the way I am. That's the way we are. But how to hold them. So I grew up in South Texas, and my family is still there, and that's where I'm headed when I leave, to be with my family in our old age, sickness, and death, as we like to say in Buddhism. My brother and my sister have different views about many things than I do. You think Montana is a red state. Come on down to Texas. But we started talking about immigration, a fraught subject. And my brother started saying something, and I actually had a moment of taking a breath and going, Karen, just because he's your little brother, he's 60-something years old, why don't you listen to him? He has run a business for 30 years, and that business was putting people to work, and he often put immigrants to work. He often put people to work. So maybe he knows something about South Texas, you in Montana and California. Maybe he knows something. Why don't you listen to him? And I did. And all I can say is I listened to him. I was in a state of not knowing what is going on at the border. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe he also doesn't know. Because I think unless you're at the border, you don't know what's going on. And even if you are at the border, you may not see everything. So I listened to my brother. This was a great moment in my life because I realized I didn't have to be bound by what I thought I knew. I could listen to them. It doesn't matter whether I agree, and it doesn't matter whether they're right or wrong. It matters that we were connected and we were in harmony. The content is not what's important. It's the connection. So not knowing, give yourself some spaciousness. Do yourself a favor. Bearing witness is the hard practice of seeing the suffering of yourself, your loved ones, your community, your world, and standing up and breathing in the face of it. Bearing witness also to the joy of the world. It includes your attachments, your viewpoints, your judgments. You can't just not know. You also have to see clearly what's going on. And that's a hard practice, just to be with someone who is suffering, to be with someone who's in joy and let the joy in. So, strengthen your capacity for spaciousness. Face it. Face what is going on, but be careful how much you ingest. You have to self-regulate. And that's a skill a lot of us didn't learn as kids, how to self-regulate. Don't regulate with drugs and alcohol, with TV and shopping, with relationship that is not healthy. Regulate yourself. Take a breath. Feel your feelings. And then taking action. It arises from not knowing and bearing witness. And it's impossible to know what the right response is in any given situation unless you're awake, and then you know it will be obvious. If you are breathing, if you are being in touch with what the situation is, you'll know the right thing to do. Or you'll not do something, which can also be the right thing to do. Nothing. So I'm mindful of time. I'm not mindful of time. I did have no idea how long this goes, but I'm going to try to finish up here. So this talk was going to be about cultivating peace and wisdom. How do we cultivate it? So we are not just sitting and being peaceful. We want to cultivate it, and we want to help each other cultivate it. And becoming peaceful first, I have to practice myself. I have to calm down, in other words. And calming down takes practice. It takes remembering. Nurturing wisdom is a practice. You can't just hear a prayer once and be set, right? You have to practice. We pray every day. So what are the teachings and the reminders that help you remember what it is we're doing here? I mean, what are we doing here, right? In my morning group on Sundays, we are reading a book about being with dying. It's a study of how to be with people who are dying, how to be with yourself. And really, that's all this is all about, is that we're alive and we know we're going to die. And so what is the practice in the face of that? How do we face that and at the same time live a life of love? So the way of individual practice is mindfulness, prayer. You know, what's been bothering me recently is, you know, the whole thing about thoughts and prayers. We're sending thoughts and prayers. It used to be a good thing, and now it's like, well, that's not doing anything, thoughts and prayers. But thoughts and prayers, we don't know the effect. We don't know the effect. Why does prayer persist in this world? Because we know there's something bigger than us, and what it is right here in this room. It's this connection, right? Being all together and knowing that it's not only about me. I still have to take care of myself, and by taking care of myself, I have the room to take care of you. So finding your sources of wisdom. I'm going to bring two to you that are easy. One you probably already know, and it's the serenity prayer. I can't turn away from it. It's so wise. So grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. A great source of peace and wisdom. There's another one that comes from the Buddhist tradition, but you will recognize every one of them. It's called the 5 remembrances. This is where we break free of the 3 and get to 5. We even get to 7 and 8 and 12, but you have to sign up for those courses. The 5 remembrances. I am of the nature to age. I cannot avoid aging. I am of the nature to grow sick. I cannot avoid sickness. I am of the nature to die. I cannot avoid death. Everything changes, and I will lose all that is dear to me. There is no escape from separation. My actions are my only possessions, and I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. So knowing that we're going to grow old, get sick, die, we're going to lose everyone we love, and they're going to lose us. Sounds so grim, doesn't it? Buddhists are known for being so grim. But actually, think of the freedom. Think of the freedom you can live your life with when you face this. So the first thing to do is to bear witness, to not know, to open up your mind. Take a breath, create space, bear witness, don't turn away, and then find a way to act. Find a way to respond in the world. So what I came to at the end was, well, this is really all about joy. This is all about joy. And the thing about joy is that it's not based on circumstances. It doesn't matter your circumstances. There are people right now across the world with the worst circumstances finding ways to be joyful. Kids are a great way to remember joy. Animals are a great way. Your garden. All kinds of joy. There are no circumstances. You can find it within you right now. That place where we're all connected, where we're just human beings, and it's amazing that we're even here. So finding the joy that's not based on circumstances, there's joy in taking a breath and being here. And whether it's pleasurable or painful, it's still joyful. So the mind of joyful effort allows us to take a long view of the path and maintain a commitment and enthusiasm for benefiting beings that is consistent, uplifted, and undeterred. We're not here just for ourselves, and we won't be deterred from living a joyful life. So don't add fuel to the fire. Calm the mind and heart. Be kind. And this quote came from the back of the book of the Jataka Tales, and I just happened to read it, and I thought I'd end with it. Love is the magic by which humans and animals are able to transform threatening conditions and positively influence the hearts of all creatures. And thank you.